800 million years ago, one asteroid broke apart in the wrong place at exactly the wrong time. And for the next 150 million years, 4 different worlds quietly paid for it. Here's the problem. Scientists have been quietly chasing for decades. The moon's surface barely changes. No wind, no rain, no plate tectonics quietly erasing the evidence. Just craters, sitting there, patiently, for as long as 3 or 4 billion years. And buried in that record, scientists had already noticed something strange. A real spike in large lunar craters, all clustering around the same rough age, about 800 million years old. The question nobody could answer was simple to ask and brutally hard to solve. What actually caused it? A team led by Dr. William Botk at the Southwest Research Institute in Boulder, Colorado, thinks they finally found a strong answer, published this July in the Planetary Science Journal. And the story starts, of all places, with a single object, roughly 100 to 200 kilometers across, sitting quietly in the main asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. At some point around 800 million years ago, that object was struck hard enough to shatter completely. That kind of collision isn't rare, on its own. Asteroids break apart in the belt all the time. What made this particular breakup so consequential wasn't the collision itself. It was exactly where it happened. The wreckage from that shattered parent body is known today as the Eulalia family, a group of dark, carbon-rich fragments that still share a common origin. And Eulalia's parent body broke apart, sitting right at the edge of something astronomers call a 3-to-1 resonance with Jupiter, a spot where an object completes 3 trips around the sun for every single orbit Jupiter finishes. That specific rhythm turns the location into something like a gravitational escape hatch. Get pulled into that resonance, and Jupiter's repeated gravitational nudges will eventually fling you straight out of the asteroid belt, onto a path that crosses the orbits of the inner, rocky planets. According to the team's models, roughly half of Eulalia's fragments fell into that resonance almost immediately after the breakup and got flung inward right away. The rest didn't leave quietly. Over the following 100 to 150 million years, another quarter of the fragments slowly drifted into the same resonance, pulled there by something called the Yarkovsky effect, a strange, quiet little push caused by nothing more than sunlight. An asteroid absorbs solar heat unevenly across its surface, then re-radiates that heat back into space, and that lopsided release of energy acts like a whisper-thin thruster, nudging the object's orbit, millimeter by millimeter, year after year, for millions of years in a row. Put those 2 waves of debris together, and you get a bombardment that didn't strike once and stop. It kept going, in fits and pulses, for 150 million years straight. And the moon wasn't the only target. According to Botka's team, for every single large impact that struck the moon, roughly 20 similar or larger impacts would have struck Earth instead, simply because Earth is a much bigger target with much stronger gravity, pulling in far more of the debris passing nearby. Mars took its share too. The researchers found that the timing of this bombardment lines up with a documented surge in enormous Martian volcanic calderas, and they suspect the repeated impact shocks may have destabilized underground magma reservoirs, effectively rattling the planet's insides hard enough to help trigger that eruption surge from below. Each major impact on a world like Mars would have sent seismic shockwaves rippling deep through the crust. Not unlike an earthquake, only triggered from above instead of below. And enough of those shocks, repeated over millions of years, could plausibly nudge an already simmering magma system toward the surface. Here's where the story gets more careful and more speculative at the same time. The peak of this 800-million-year-old bombardment lines up closely with a period of dramatic global cooling on Earth, an era sometimes nicknamed Snowball Earth, alongside major shifts in early life on the planet. Botke himself has been cautious about that overlap, calling it tempting to connect the two, without claiming the bombardment definitely caused the cooling. Correlation isn't causation, and 800 million years is a long time to trace a clean, unbroken line of cause and effect. But the timing is close enough that it's now a real, testable hypothesis, not just an interesting coincidence to wave away. Then there's Venus, which gets an even stranger, more speculative mention in the same study. Venus's surface, unlike the Moon's, doesn't preserve billions of years of history. Its average surface age comes out to somewhere around 650 million years old, meaning something wiped the slate nearly clean. Sometime after that point, the researchers raise the possibility carefully that debris from this same Eulalia breakup could have triggered a planet-wide volcanic resurfacing event on Venus, essentially repaving the entire planet from the inside out. It's a bigger leap than the Earth or Mars connections, and the authors know it. But it's still a testable one, not a wild guess floating free of any mechanism. None of this rests on faith alone. The model makes specific, checkable predictions. How many fragments should have arrived in each wave, roughly when they should have struck? And which craters on which worlds should share that same origin story. The team's estimate for the age of the lunar crater spike itself comes from a separate line of evidence entirely. Tiny beads of impact glass, created in the heat of ancient collisions that Apollo astronauts collected decades ago and brought back to Earth. Dating those glass beads is what gave scientists their original clue that something big happened around 800 million years ago, long before anyone had a specific culprit in mind. Future work comparing lunar samples, meteorite ages, and the crater records on Mars can either support this picture or quietly rule it out, one data set at a time. It also helps to understand what a family of asteroids actually means in this context, since it's doing a lot of work in the story. When a large object shatters in the belt, it doesn't just vanish into random rubble. The fragments tend to keep drifting along broadly similar orbits for a long time afterward. And they tend to share the same basic composition, because they all came from the same original body. That's exactly what lets astronomers look at today's Eulalia family, a loose scattering of dark, carbon-rich asteroids still orbiting in the belt, and reconstruct backward from their current orbits and composition to the size, timing, and rough location of the single object they all used to be part of. It's a bit like finding shattered glass on a floor and working out, from the pattern and the pieces themselves, roughly where the original vase used to sit before it broke. Events like this aren't thought to be common, and that's part of what makes tracing one back so valuable. Most collisions in the asteroid belt happen far from any resonance capable of flinging debris toward the inner solar system at all, and simply grind fragments down over time without ever sending them anywhere near Earth. It took a large parent body, a violent enough collision, and a location sitting almost precisely on top of a specific gravitational shortcut, all lining up at once, to turn one asteroid breakup into a 150 million year bombardment, spanning 4 separate worlds. Rare, well-positioned events like that may be quietly responsible for other unexplained spikes buried in the geological and cratering record on any of the rocky worlds capable of preserving one. What makes this whole picture land differently than a typical asteroid nearly hit Earth headline is the timescale involved. This isn't a single object narrowly missing the planet on one dramatic night. It's one violent breakup in one specific unlucky orbital neighborhood, quietly seeding 150 million years of consequences across 4 separate worlds. Long before anything on Earth had a nervous system capable of noticing. Beyond what you can see, but never beyond what you can understand. Subscribe and check out the rest of the channel. New episodes on space, physics, and the edges of what we understand, with new content going up every day.